want to talk a little about NIO stock, the price action, and I'm talking about even within this month of January 2025, we might see an uptrend start. But hang on, because I want to go a little more in depth before we actually discuss maybe an easier indicator, which will be Alibaba, if big money flows back to Chinese stocks. So we're going to cover both things in this video. First off, though, I want to point out a few things in case you're not aware of them. This is random. I do some of these tweets sometimes when I see things. This is from January 2nd, and very early in the trade day, I saw a big volume. 31 million shares were being traded early. It did slow down that day, but it made me, I don't know, my sense or just instinctive feel was sort of, my gut was saying maybe big money is quietly buying and they're doing so in the mornings. Then again, later, and this was January 8th that I posted this one because I noticed very early, again, within about the first hour of the trade day, including pre-market, and then the first hour, there were over 20 million shares traded. Now, let's actually hone in on this for a second because I want to check and kind of make the point. This is the recent, daily trade volume from that day on January 8th, under 50 million total shares traded, not very much volume. And so I'm just going to keep tracking this stuff and sharing it as I see it. We're going to come back to this in a minute because I also wanted to highlight Laser, who is a reversal trader. I think he is ultimately has a view that NIO is a good potential long-term investment. I can't speak for him. I could be speculating and wrong on this, but he's been tracking NIO on the short-term timeframes for a long time. And so if you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, I'll include a link there and in this as well, because he does regular posts for things he's watching with respect to not just NIO, but also, Hang Seng Index and other sort of indicators that might tell us when big money is going to flow back to Chinese stocks, or when we might see an uptrend or an obvious reversal for NIO stocks. So I wanted to offer that. But now I actually want to zoom out and I'm going to show something and make a point, and then we'll look at time frame on this because this is the entire history for NIO stock as it's been traded in the US market. And the yellow price indicator that indicates price, the white lines represent fails to deliver. That's where there could have been naked shorting, but that's only in the US market. And so what we've seen, I think there are basically three timeframes. If I'm kind of simplifying this, there's the early time frame where the FTDs were incredibly high and the stock price was very low for NIO stock. Then we saw that meteoric rise where NIO stock kind of went parabolic, and within 6 months it went from $3.50 to over $55. And with that, we had big volume, big daily trade volume, which is why that's one of the things that I track in the short term with just kind of keeping eyes on that. But then also we had the fails to deliver drop off during that time frame. Now, we never get the data real time. It's always delayed lag data. So we don't ever really know what's going on behind the scenes. I think that's one of the reasons NIO stock is so hard to trade or predict in the short term. But with this reemergence of the FTDs over these last 3+ years, and they've actually been getting bigger here in the recent months and really through a lot of 2024, not surprisingly, at least in my mind, with the low trade volume, the stock price has been brought down. So when will that change? It could happen after the inauguration in late January. That's kind of one of the timeframes I'm keeping an eye on. But I also want to go back and point something else out, because this is in the European market, and there are different products like this available across the globe. And some of these were created after NIO had already been traded for a while in the US market. And so that's what I want to share here. This is a triple leveraged short NIO ETP is what they call it down here. You've got domicile, the replication method, it's synthetic. And here is the listing date, March 8th, 2021. Now I want to go back to the NIO chart so that we can kind of hone in on when that was. March 2021 was right in here. So this is our time frame where those appeared. And I just kind of think it's interesting to look at things like this. Maybe there's no correlation at all, but I want to have the awareness if I can. Also, now let's look at Alibaba. It's crazy that Alibaba has any FTDs because it's such a profitable company and it has been doing share buybacks. However, if there is naked shorting going on, and by the way, the suspicious short that I've referenced before that has a short position in NIO also has a short position in Alibaba. So perhaps they are trading and shorting some of these together, some of these different Chinese stocks. Certainly think it's possible. If we look at the full history for Alibaba dating back to 2014 in the US market, we'll see the spikes on the FTDs, and they remained somewhat high. But the stock price is a little different. It's not quite as clear and easy to see. I think the correlation is a little different with NIO and Alibaba. However, concept overview is the key. And when the FTDs dropped off, that's when we saw Alibaba go to its all-time high, which was over $300 a share. Here's what's interesting is the timing of the triple leverage short, this ETP from within the European market, and where that came in for BABA was early February of 2022. Now let's go back and look at where that puts things here. We're talking about right in this time frame right here. How interesting that there could be a correlation with some of these things. And so, again, I'm thinking in terms of very big picture globally. I think, ironically, it's the least likely that these stocks are being shorted or manipulatively shorted in the Asian markets. And so one of the things I wanted to point out, and shout out Thomas Hayes is the one who's really talked about this a lot. He talked about the tariff king is what he's called Trump. And he talked about when Trump came into office and how Alibaba basically went on a big run after that, would ultimately later go to all-time highs. But, he basically said it looks like a similar setup this time around. And so that's one of the reasons I'm wondering and watching for late in the month of January price action. And I think, again, it'll be, borne out or shown a little obviously by the trade volume being a lot higher than what we've seen once maybe more big money starts flowing into Chinese stocks. I do think we will see it in this year of 2025. I don't know how soon it will be, but I wanted to cover some of this and talk about it because, with respect to the price action, especially as we see such low trade volume for NIO in the recent, days, and yet a lot of it seems to be very early in the morning. I just think, I know that there's a lot of retail ownership for NIO stock, or at least that's what we've read and talked about here recently on the channel. But I have a hard time believing that, the majority of the trade action is all retail investors and is only within the first hour of the trade day. So that's why I tweeted those things, and I'll just kind of keep tracking it, keep an eye on it. And I was going to show you more, but maybe I'll do that in another video because there is some other data that I've never shared or talked about here on the channel that I can show. Again, I think it may be an indicator of later when we do see NIO stock. I do think we will see it reverse, and a very obvious uptrend will emerge or re-emerge. And then let's just see if we're off to the races from that point on. But drop it in the comments. I'm curious what other people are thinking. If you're seeing any of these same things, have a great day. I'll try to get this video out. This is January 9th. So the market's closed today. That's why I wanted to do the video and then hopefully get it out before the markets reopen heading into tomorrow. So have a great day. See y'all again very soon.